Welcome to the TK Show with the Athletic Bay Area's editor-in-chief, Tim Kawakami.
Hey, it's Tim Kawakami here at the TK Show with a impromptu but slightly planned TK Show episode with the once banned Ann Killion. The ban has been lifted by me. Not by anything. I quit the place that banned you. But great to have Ann Killion, San Francisco Chronicle columnist, my good friend, former colleague. And yes, Ann, the ban has been lifted. How does that feel? The emotions of that must be powerful.
I'm so excited. I was so upset I was banned by my former workplace of ever being on the TK Show.
It was a bloody one. I almost got fired. It was a big protest. But great to have you on, Ann, on a practice day, the day before the NBA Finals Game 1. It's Warriors-Cleveland. Again, we were both at Game 7 for them beating Houston. What does this feel like? Does it feel like kind of like an anticlimax? Does it feel like a build-up? How do you feel about Game 1, Cleveland, Warriors, fourth time around? Anything different for you?
I don't feel like it's anticlimactic. I think it's actually feels historic now that it's here. And, if you think about what the other option was, Boston, that's not a star-driven team right now. It will be when they get their guys back. But the fact that this is LeBron. LeBron is near the end of whatever he's going to do in his career. You get to see history. You get to see arguably the three greatest players in the league right now on the same court. And
that's only if Steve plays Zaza, though, so he might not.
That's true. We got to root for the Zaza factor. So I think it's pretty epic, and I'm kind of laughing when I hear people saying that people like how can we get fans interested? It's like, really? LeBron, KD, Steph. I think that's how you get fans interested. I think the media is more bored with it than the general public.
Yeah, it is true. We're thinking, okay, what's the stories we're trying to write? Not necessarily what's the most interesting thing. So what is the most interesting thing? Other than it's 4 in a row, other than it's LeBron, Steph, KD, for you, what's the most interesting story in this series?
Well,
other than the workers who keep walking past us, and that's all right. So they're doing their jobs. We're trying to record a podcast. What's the thing that you're looking at?
Well, I think it's the Warriors. It's the way they've been playing and what we saw,
How have they been playing? I'm still trying to figure that out.
Very weirdly, very schizophrenically. I think that we were all ready to cancel our hotel reservations in Cleveland at halftime. They didn't look like they were going to come back from it. You think if you come out in a Game 7 like that, there's really something fundamentally wrong. And then they flipped the switch and they became the Warriors that we know. So I think it's really going to be interesting to see if, based on talent, they should maybe sweep this series. Based on the way they've been playing, it could go to 6 or 7. So I think that's the main thing I'm interested to see is just how does this team react? And then thinking ahead, if they win another, how are they going to be next year? They're really going to be bored.
They're going to lose 3 straight in every series just to prove that they can win every one in 4 straight games in Game 7. Steve Kerr really well. We both do. What did you feel about his kind of emotions through that weird series? Obviously, it was totally bizarre in the first half of Game 7. Obviously, I was sitting way up there in the press box, so I couldn't really see, but I know he looked completely puzzled by what was going on. What did you think about him through that game, after Game 7, and just through the whole series?
Well, I think the thing about Steve is that he has complete confidence in his players. He's baffled by them when they act like this. He tells them exactly what to do, and then they go out and they don't do it, and then everyone
do the exact opposite.
They do the opposite, and then Steve. It's amazing that he's gotten some criticism, like on social media and stuff. That really, what this guy has done in the last few years, I find that a little hard to believe. He is not the one out there clanging shots or throwing the ball away. I saw I went back and looked at the TNT, I think it was after the first quarter interview, and I've never seen him be that pop-like and brief with a reporter, with his former employer.
Absolutely.
He was pissed. He was really pissed. But I think and I thought afterwards it was just a great relief, and I think he and D'Antoni, I think, had the right the right mindset for an NBA coach. I mean, you've got to trust your players. You've got to try and let them remember what they can do. But I did think he looked like he'd aged a couple years when he came into the press room.
And that's the weird thing is I also certainly it took a toll on everybody, but I also thought he was happier than I've seen. I don't know, happy, more relieved than I've seen him in a while. And I talked to him afterwards, and he was pretty relaxed afterwards. I mean, and then he was drinking beers in the locker room afterwards. This has been a weird season for everybody, and I think they're just going to be happy. We're just talking about the finals like it's some after thing. Maybe I'm doing it too much, but once the season, I think they're going to be really relieved to have the season over, assuming they do win the championship, third and 4 years back to back. But this is like been the trial year. Last year was kind of the fun, weird year. I mean, different kind of year when you're just racing through everybody. This year's kind of tested Durant, it's tested Draymond, it's tested Steve, it's tested Bob Myers. I do think this has been, and they almost set it up like this, but man, I just think they're just going to be relieved once the season is over, once this finals is over.
I think so. I think it's just been way more of a struggle than they ever expected. They were so dominant last year, and I think they don't really understand why they're playing this way. They don't understand why it's happening. They know what they're supposed to do. They're really smart. They're really great, and somehow they just can't make it click in. I do think what Steph said after the game was really interesting when he said there was that point where it could have splintered, and we have never heard anything like that about this team in 4 years because their chemistry has been so significant, so good, and that's kind of an interesting thing to think. Wow, was there really a point where their frustration was so built up that something that they could have just like thrown up their hands like we see a lot of NBA teams? We've seen Houston do it. We've seen other teams do it, especially in the face of bad play and on a hostile court against a good team. So the fact that they didn't do that, I think, will be a big relief. I think they'll look back and in many ways be more, if they win, more proud of their accomplishment because they've shown resiliency that they've never really had to show before.
With Durant. Yeah, it's one of those Memphis series, Cleveland 2015 series, Oklahoma City 2016. This was their first one with Durant. Right. And I think this is all just podcast garble, but other people, not ours. This one's good. Is Kevin Durant? Bill Simmons throws out, it's the first time I really thought that Durant could leave the Warriors. Bill Simmons does a podcast with Kevin Durant. Clearly, there was something to in Bill's mind beyond just throwing it out there. I was watching that game. He said that, I think, in a previous game. I was thinking in Game 7, if he ever thought about leaving, it was because about the first half. And the reason he's going to stay, which we all know in 99% likelihood anyway, was because of the second half. It was a breakup. It was a splintering. When we saw it happening, I mean, Draymond's yelling at him. Durant's kind of not into it. Didn't feel like part of the cohesive whole. Second half, it was, okay, Steph, you do your thing, and then I'm going to close. And that's why he came to the Warriors overall. Sometimes he might have thought otherwise throughout the season, and sometimes the other guys might have thought the same thing about him. I just thought that one game, 2 halves was the whole story, and that's why he's staying.
Well, I would agree. He visibly relaxed when Steph started rolling, and he looked very tight in the first half, and he looked like he felt like he had to be LeBron, like he had to do everything. He had to play hero ball, and that's not the way the Warriors are created.
And that's what Houston wanted him to do.
Absolutely. They wanted to try and force that, and he had some great looks that weren't going, and then you could tell that his teammates were getting frustrated because he wasn't moving the ball enough, and I think he can play that way. We know that he's that talented, but is that the way he should play? Is that the fun way to play? Is that the way the Warriors are built? No. And I don't know that he wants to go and be LeBron somewhere.
I think it changes in his mind sometimes, like it does with normal people, who aren't LeBron, who aren't Steph, who aren't singular. I know that he's going to win a championship. He's not sure which way sometimes, and he's so unique that I should probably put this next to my voice. It would probably be better. And he goes through these kind of. He's torn sometimes. And I think we just saw both things up close. Well, I was a little far. I was far away, so I didn't see it up close. But we saw it in that game.
I saw it mid-range.
You saw it mid-range. I saw it with binoculars. you know what's going to happen today is everyone's going to be asked about Brian Colangelo and the burner accounts. That's just it's like just the way it dawns. I'm sure Kevin Durant is not real thrilled about this, and maybe some other people. Let's not talk about that specifically. We don't know the details. It's very bizarre. The Sixers GM with some burner accounts. One of them that follows me, which was kind of weird for me to see. Yes. Having covered many administrations in the Bay Area, could you start thinking? Is there, you think maybe one or two of the people we've covered might have, who would be the most likely to have had a burner accounts defending himself through the years?
Jed York. Come on. The guy's been on Twitter for a long time. He's made some big mistakes on Twitter. So we know that he knows about the technology. And I can imagine that he could. I don't know if Trent Baalke would have been...
if he knew how to do it.
If he knew how to do it, he would have. I can't really see anyone at the Giant. Maybe Larry Bear.
Yeah.
Maybe Larry Bear, but not, I don't know. Maybe Billy.
Billy might have some would have friends who do it. He wouldn't have the time to do it himself, but I can see him getting frustrated with things for sure. I have heard some of those frustrations. Yeah, the personality is Trent Baalke. That's it's just so hyper defensive, so ready to fight with anybody who dares thinks he's not. And that's what I got from the Colangelo. Potential Colangelo tweets were very Trent-like. Like even to talk about what his collar looked like on TV. That's we know Trent. It's that personality that might do it. Yeah, I'm not. I just went right to Trent Baalke. I said that is the guy, and my guy Robert Rowell would be the other one, and who there was some history with that too.
For sure, with the former Warriors, I would say, but not with this group. Steve Kerr doesn't even know how to use his phone half the time, so I don't think he...
And he says most of the stuff that gets him in trouble just on his own account anyway.
Exactly.
So
he picked his favorite child the other day in public. I mean, who does that? But, I would say it would be someone on the 49ers because of their incredible defensiveness. And that's the way, you're right, the way the Warriors used to be too. Incredibly defensive, just not being able to absorb any kind of criticism. So, it'd be one of those two. That'd be my guess.
We're going to take a quick break to talk about our friends at Indochino. Indochino is the world's largest made-to-measure menswear company and has been featured in major publications, including GQ, Forbes, and Fast Company. They make suits and shirts made to your exact measurements for a great fit. No more generic, off-the-rack suits that fit you like a fancy poncho. I checked out the Indochino site and they've got tons of styles and selections that will finally have my wife thinking I'm a functional, well-dressed human being. And can't wait for my new Indochino suit to come in just in time for wedding season. Guys love the wide selection of high-quality fabrics and the option to personalize all the details, including your lapel, your lining, and your monogram. Here's how it works. Visit a showroom or shop online at Indochino.com. Pick your fabric, choose your customizations, submit your measurements, and wait for your custom suit to arrive in just a few weeks. This week, TK's listeners can get any premium Indochino suit for just $379 at Indochino.com when you enter the promo code TK at checkout. That's 50% off the regular price for a made-to-measure premium suit. Plus, shipping is free. So, go to Indochino.com, enter promo code TK for any premium suit for just $379 and free shipping. Get an incredible deal for a suit that will fit you better than anything off the rack ever could. Now it's time for a word from our other friends at Simple Contacts. I have to tell you guys about my newest time-saving trick. I got my contact lens prescription renewed from my couch yesterday in under 5 minutes using an awesome new app called Simple Contacts. Simple Contacts lets you renew your prescription and reorder your brand of lenses from anywhere in minutes through an online vision test. It's designed by doctors, and every test is reviewed by a doctor, so they're literally bringing the doctor's office to your home. The contacts lens prices are unbeatable. The vision test is only $20, and shipping is free. Best of all, TK's listeners get $30 off their first Simple Contacts order with promo code TKSHOW. Try it for yourself and save $30 on your lenses by going to simplecontacts.com/TKShow. or entering the code TKShow at checkout. Again, that's simplecontacts.com/TKShow, or enter the code TKShow at checkout. Now, back to the, you guessed it, TK Show.
No, let's move over to 49ers. And I don't get that from John Lynch and Kyle Shanahan.
No.
And, I don't think that's what Jed was out there searching for. But he has found almost a perfect antidote to the way Trent Baalke and everything else was going on with that football operation in previous years. They're so secure. John's a little bit of a politician, but that's part of the job. I don't think he's a false politician. And Kyle is he's not Jim Harbaugh. Nobody's Jim Harbaugh in the personality standpoint. But, man, he's pretty direct. Man, he's more direct, I think, than people even realize about things. When you ask him a question, he gives you an answer, and he wants to give you the answer. What's your sense of those two guys? You and I have both been through something here with the Reuben Foster thing. We can talk about that a little bit. But just your sense of John Lynch, Kyle Shanahan have gone through some things now, and now look pretty good. But where do you think they are culturally, just the way they, front-facing? How do they present themselves to the public?
I think they're great, and I think they have been pretty much from the moment they got hired. Before they did anything, and for a year they've been proving, they've been backing up what they presented in that they are straightforward, they know what they're doing, they're confident. I think Kyle came to the 49ers with a completely different reputation, and one that I think is not fair, that he was defensive, that he was entitled because of whose kid he was. I don't find that at all. I find him willing to admit mistakes, totally honest, willing to take responsibility for such a young coach.
Who started 0-10, by the way.
Yeah, who started 0-10, no panic. I thought, and when you say they're secure, obviously they're financially secure, and Jed made sure of that.
Yeah.
But
to his credit.
Yeah, to his credit. But I do think that they are secure in their ability and who they are. And John Lynch, you're right, he is a little bit of a politician, but he's also media savvy because he was in our business for a long time. And even at Stanford, he was great. Great up front, great public
And
face.
you covered him at Stanford?
A little bit. Wow. Yes, I am old. And he was always like that in his playing career. And he's not one who's going to get defensive or hold a grudge if maybe you were wrong about him. Mm-hmm. He's not going to blackball you. So I think so far, and even through the Reuben Foster thing especially, I didn't know if because the guy who's in charge is still Jed York. And so that's where my doubt about how they were handling things came from. But John Lynch and Kyle Shanahan have my trust now because they stood up for what they believed, and it turns out that what they believed is the way the thing played out.
Yeah, again, we talk about, I hate comparing sports to real life, but I always said that what the Warriors went through in the last series told us about them. And you don't learn stuff like that unless it's tough, unless you see them under strain, unless you see them possibly have to break up because things are so tough. And when we saw it from Kyle Shanahan and John Lynch and Jed York, I'm going to throw him in there too,
yeah.
Who has had some bad experiences with this and has handled things poorly, but they handled it. They got the right information. And I'd heard this information from the get-go that they understood that there was weird things with this case and that Reuben didn't do anything that was going to lead to severe penalties. And then he got the felony charges.
Yeah.
And I wrote that they should cut him. You wrote that they should cut him. Other people did, based on our understanding of the 49ers. And I don't think any of us said he's guilty. Certainly we don't know. I don't think any of us said the 49ers are lying because we didn't know. But when the Santa Clara County DA files felony charges with the details they put out, I trusted that, and I was wrong for trusting that. I think a lot of people were wrong. That guy has a good reputation, not anymore. And those charges have been thrown out. The details that we thought were coming out never really did. If this is, I have a strong point to say, what the hell were they doing presenting these filings? But where do you think? I mean, have you heard back? Obviously, we heard back from a lot of 49er fans who weren't happy with us. But have you heard any
burner accounts?
Yes, maybe many burner accounts. So that's all right. We wrote what we wrote. We'll take it. What was your thought through that whole process? Do you think the 49ers are holding a grudge? Do you think Reuben? And have you heard anything about that organization feeling defensive about the way they handled this?
I saw Jed and John a few nights ago, and they didn't appear to be defensive or angry about about like directly at me. I think maybe John doesn't. John inherited a situation. I think Jed understands that they misplayed their hand on several of these players who got in criminal trouble over the years, and so they hadn't earned the benefit of the doubt. And that's pretty much what a lot of us were basing our opinion about how they were handling things, was that this organization has failed both their players, their fans, and the community at large on many occasions. And then again, you're right, the DA in Santa Clara County has a good reputation, and when they take 2 months after an incident to file charges, felony charges, you got to figure that they have evidence. I mean, that's 2 months of investigation. So it was a butchered situation all the way around. We will never know what actually happened on February 11th or whatever day it was. And certainly the DA doubled down with their statement afterwards. But I hope that everyone can move on. Reuben Foster deserves to be exonerated. He is not facing any criminal charges. Hopefully he has learned to make some better decisions.
Which the 49ers themselves kind of emphasized even after the felony charges were dropped.
Right. In their statement, they said he's not out of the, basically not out of the woods yet. And there's someone that, he is someone that they are going to have to monitor. And hopefully he's going to grow up and they can put this stuff behind them. But I think everyone learned a lot of lessons in this. They learned about what happens when you have a risky player. They've been dealing with that ever since they drafted him.
That's how they got him, really.
It's really how they got him, right, because he is a risk. We learned a lot about whether to trust John Lynch and Kyle Shanahan at face value. And, I think the 49ers are going to be a better organization for it, which I wouldn't have said during the Alden Smith
Ray McDonald.
Or the Ray McDonald time.
Bruce Miller.
Right. They were a worse organization for how they handled those things.
Do you think they're going to be good? 5-0, finish the season. This is early, but everyone's football crazy. Are the 49ers a good team?
I think they are going to be good. I think they're a better team, and obviously the quarterback is everything, and he looked pretty darn good. So I think they're going to be good. I don't think I'm going to buy my Super Bowl tickets, but I think they're going to be good because I think Kyle's a really good coach, and I think they have a good foundation going, and I think
quarterback's okay.
That's what I'm saying. I mean, they solved the most important position, and who would have? I mean, a year ago or 6 months ago, I never would have dreamed that they would be in this position now. So I mean, that's 90% of being a winning team, 95%.
All right, your guy John Gruden back with the Raiders, going through OTAs. What are your initial impressions? You know him so well. What are your initial impressions of just how this has started, the Gruden Raiders 2.0?
I don't really have any impression because I've been with the Warriors. I have no idea.
He was out here one of those games.
Yeah, I don't know. I think it's going to be interesting. I just think the whole thing is going to be so weird. Mark Davis is off in Vegas sitting behind the goal. I was out there when the Sharks were playing the Knights, and they... the Raiders have 1 foot there. And so how do you... I'm always interested in just how do you present yourself, with 1 foot in each market. Obviously, Gruden made everyone renew their season tickets here. I have a lot of friends who are Raider fans, and they were all on board. They're not going to Vegas, but they're going to stick with them as long as they're in Oakland. I think it'll be exciting. He hasn't coached in so long, and quite honestly, his last few years of coaching weren't great. So I think he's going to rub some of the guys the wrong way. I think people don't know really what they're going to be in for. He's not the cute TV personality when he's on the sideline. So I think it'll be interesting to see how it plays out.
Yeah, and Oracle Arena is coming alive right now. If you can't hear the noises going on, but they're just getting ready. I think the Warriors are finishing up practice right now. We will be speaking to them soon. Okay, this is the question I've been waiting a couple years to ask. I know you've got answers. You've got great ones. We've dined at several of these places. It's a question I ask everybody. Ann Killion, what's your favorite restaurant?
Oh, my God.
Just give me one.
It's not the French Laundry.
Yeah, no. Yeah, that's a whole other podcast.
I have a very good friend who's a terrific chef, and I think is got one of the finest restaurants in San Francisco. So I'm going to give Roland Passot a plug and say La Folie on Polk Street. It's consistent over the last gosh, I don't know, 25 years. It's fabulous. It's a better value than some of the newer, overpriced French-based places, but it's fantastic.
I got to ask you now. Okay, I have a first-hand witness for the French Laundry incident. Let's try to keep it a little short. But what was your reaction when you saw that the bill and knew that how much you were paying for some of it? Matt Barris was paying for some of it, and I was paying for. I don't even know how much of it I was paying for. What are your memories from that end of night?
A little jaw-dropping. I thought the whole time that this bet that you had was not going to be, was just a name only, and that the guy who owns a team worth $1 billion was going to say, don't worry about it, I'll pick it up. Because I'm used to dealing with his uncle and the former team president and other people who certainly always pick up the bills. Yeah, that was an interesting night. I think learned a lot about certain personalities.
Learned a lot about me too. I think through the struggle and through the tough times, because that drive home was really weird. I was in a different place for that one.
Learned a lot about how deep your credit card can go.
Right to the line. All right, Ann, great having you on. Been too long, but there was a reason for that. So off the ban list. There's nobody on the ban. There's nobody banned anymore. There's some people who won't be on, but there's nobody banned. Annie, thanks a lot. Thank you for being on TK Show.
Thanks for having me finally. Yay.